Welcome back to Veronica Live, and we are here with President and CEO Patrick Chapin, and he is in charge of our Bay County Chamber, and we are so excited to host him this morning. Welcome to Veronica Live, Patrick.
Good morning. It's so nice to be here. I appreciate you having me on.
So I wanted to thank you because you came out to my billionaire event, I like to call it, at Emerald Park, and it was a billionaire funded a $50 million project, and I'd asked you to be a speaker at my event, and I wanted to just thank you because it was a fantastic speech, and the billionaire was literally wowed at the reception he got from Bay County. So I wanted to let the whole world know how much I appreciate you doing that.
Well, that was a great event, and you certainly rounded up some important people in town and around the state, so it was a lot of fun.
Well, great. And tell us, how long have you been running the chamber as the new president now?
You know, I don't know if they really have 90-day probationary periods anymore, but I better watch my step today because I'm getting close.
Okay.
And Veronica, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts and seen the people you've interviewed, and you're willing to risk your reputation on some knucklehead like me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm super excited to have you on because, as I tell people, the chamber is a power player in our community. And I'm actually a Leadership Bay graduate. So when I was running a PR company for a couple years, I got to go to Leadership Bay. And I remember Congressman Sutherland, our former congressman here, came and he said, if you're not part of the chamber and you don't have the chamber sticker on your business, I don't go into your business. And
He needs to enter the Chamber of Commerce world. He's great.
Well, that's what he was saying about our Bay County Chamber. And so you all are a power player. And that was what was so beautiful is at this event with the fancy billionaire from New York that has invested in our community is, Tamara shows up with your ambassadors and everybody feels so welcome. So it's just great. But tell us about who you are, Patrick. And where you came from, and I see that you're an FSU grad, so okay, because I'm a Gator mom and a Hurricane mom.
That's okay, Patrick. I'm an FSU grad, so
Well, I've matured over the years. We've even let a few Gators into our family, so no Hurricanes. I'm sorry, we haven't got to that point yet, but yeah, I'm a Central Floridian. I'm an Orlandoan.
Okay.
Families, deep roots there, been around way before Disney and the rest of the good stuff and the challenging stuff. But went to Florida State. My sort of formative career years was with Disney. I was there over 10 years, and some interesting opportunities there. Ended up in Sydney for a project during the Olympic Games, which kind of set me on a different course. Yeah,
okay.
It was amazing. And then I came back, and I know this isn't the Patrick Chapin live show, but did Disney, came back, took a year off. My wife and I left Disney and went around the world for a year in 2003 and 2004.
Oh my goodness.
And then got into kind of the chamber world for about 5 years. I ran one of the largest YMCAs in the Southeast down in Sarasota, and then Winter Park Chamber of Commerce, got recruited up to High Point, North Carolina, for a Chamber of Commerce job there. And then I felt the urge to get my gills back near the salt water and the sunshine, and ended up here, just 2 or 3 months ago.
Well, welcome. And what were your takeaways with working for Disney? Because that's like a huge entity in our world, and I can't even imagine, that would be a dream job, working for Disney.
It was pretty amazing. I think a couple takeaways, fortunately, and I think it really did set kind of into my DNA is mentorship. My mentor was the head of Epcot at the time and became the president of Walt Disney World. And I was fortunate enough to be around some really creative people and learned, what a culture of an organization is, and just the collaboration it takes across departments. One funny thing or interesting thing is, and then I could get into some leadership skills and that sort of thing, but I learned from the famous Walt Disney, one of his quotes, everyone thinks, the customer's always right. And one of his actual quotes is, the customer isn't always right, but you have to allow him or her to be wrong with dignity. So that was kind of a funny takeaway. But yeah, I was very fortunate. I was in leadership. I was in international programs. We ran a leadership program with the international students. And then I was in international sponsorship development, traveled around the world, and ended up heading up a project during the Olympic Games.
Oh, that's so funny, because I've been to Sydney, and I actually toured all of the Olympic stuff on my trip there. That was one of the little tourist trips you would take to see how cool it was. So, that's so neat. And then tell me about traveling around the world. I mean, who gets to do that? What were your favorite countries? And I've lived and traveled all over the world, but I mean, to just stop working and to go travel around the world, that's incredible. That's a dream.
Yeah. I've got an amazing wife. I think my parents set the tone when I was at Florida State. It was football season, and they said, we really want you to go to Florence, Italy, and study for a semester. And I'm like, no way. Even though we weren't very good in football, I wanted to stick around. At the time, we weren't very good. But I went to Florence and studied, and just got the travel bug. So when I went to Sydney and a lot of Europe with Disney and Japan and so forth, but my wife and I came back, and we just really felt like, rather than climb the corporate ladder, we wanted to do some other things. So we moved into a tiny little apartment and saved every penny, and left and didn't have a place to stay any night. We flew in and out of a continent or country, continent, and kind of free-willed it, but went through South America, a big part of Africa, India, Nepal, all through Southeast Asia. And yeah, so it was an amazing experience. I sort of say it was basically my master's, because that's what it cost, but it was a life experience. I think maybe gave me some value that an MBA wouldn't. But we had some interesting times. We got robbed, I think, our second week in Ecuador, and we're like, what are we doing? We got so we got robbed. We got amoebic. I got amoebic dysentery in Nepal. We got held up by Maoist rebels in Nepal. We were on a 2-week hike. Yeah, with AK-47s, but they were smart enough to know that you don't shoot the person who lays the golden egg. So we generously gave them a donation. I'm using air quotes. Yeah, so it was an amazing experience.
Well, I can't wait to read your book, because these are like, this requires a night at the bar, drinking and talking about all of these incredible stories. Was there one country that's your favorite? I mean, I really enjoyed my trip to Sydney, I have to say, and I adore Japan.
Amazing. Yeah, Sydney was an amazing experience, and I think our favorite was Vietnam.
Really?
My father-in-law was a Green Beret, served 2 tours. So we started in Hanoi and went south through the country for 30 days, as long as you could.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was reading the history of the Green Berets book at the time. And my father-in-law never really talked about, his time over there. He said the people were great, except for the ones who were trying to shoot at him. But at one point he emailed me some of his missions, and not to go too far into it, but I don't know, some of your listeners probably remember the A-Team.
Yeah.
And I never knew that the A-Team is basically, you have A, B, and C. So C is a big compound B, big base. B mission is a little bit smaller, maybe a group of 50 people. And then A team is really you go out and get with the Montagnards in this case, and it's a team of maybe 8 people. So A team is really a small group that goes out with indigenous people. And he had lots of A missions, and he gave a number to them and told me about them. And he didn't tell me about them. He just gave me the mission numbers. And I looked up one of them, and I turned into the book, and the first sentence was one of the fiercest battles of the history of the Green Berets in Vietnam. He never talked about it. He never, said anything about it. But
what a humble man!
It was a real American hero. But it was a beautiful experience. The people were great. It was Christmas Eve in Hue. Went to a Catholic mass. We couldn't understand a thing, but lots of great memories.
Incredible. Well, and I want to talk about, and we're going to get into the chamber, but we're getting to know you, and you're so interesting. But you're a 5-time Ironman, multiple marathon, and oh dear Lord, ultra marathon. I don't even know. Is that like running 100 miles or more? I don't even know. You have to tell us what that is. You have climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, and then Ojos de Saldo, which Ojos is eyes in Spanish. So that I was going to look that up, but I'm like, I'll just ask him where that is.
Ojos del Salado is eyes of salt, so tears. And that's what I felt like when I climbed.
And what country was that? Where was that?
That's in Chile.
Okay.
Yeah, that's in Chile. It's the highest volcano in the world.
Oh my goodness. And then Mount Kilimanjaro, how was that?
It was not as hard as Ojos del Salado, I'll say. It was not extremely difficult. My father, who's no longer with us, but he's a great, great man. He was, I think, 74 and wanted to climb it, so I went with him. And the key to that is you just take your time. Because
of the altitude, right?
The altitude, yeah. You've got to acclimatize. So we did that the right way. The Ojos climb was over about 2.5 weeks, so it was a little bit
and that was
serious.
my question was, how long does it take to climb these things?
Yeah, Kilimanjaro is not that dramatic. I mean, it's difficult. The Ojos del Salado, you do a lot of acclimatizing. So we probably had 10 climbs over the height of Kilimanjaro. You go up and come down, go up and come down, and then you make the final push. It's not an Everest. Let me make sure that, it's not a big deal, but there's a little bit of technical stuff. And I'm a Florida boy, so, an overpass is a mountain to me. So
I just say I like to ski, and I go out to Snowmass out in Colorado. That's 12,000 feet, and I'm up there sucking air like nothing.
Right. Yes, I've done that at Breck. Oh my gosh. So how do you train for something like this? I mean, obviously you're an ultra marathoner. So is that then it makes it climbing a mountain easy, Patrick?
No, actually, what they say is you could be a smoker and sort of out of shape and summit Kilimanjaro, or you could be an Ironman and not. It just depends. Some people are, again, for a flatlander, I've got some weird oxygen lung capacity that helps. And I won't, again, I don't want to talk about myself, but there's 2 things I'd like to talk about. And one is the reason I do that sort of thing is I had a niece. She passed away. My younger brother, his oldest daughter, was born, and we didn't know it at the time. It's called Sanfilippo syndrome. There's probably 100 kids that are born with it each year. Don't look it up unless you have a tissue near you, but you're basically born completely normal. 3 or 4 years, you start looking like you may have autism, and then everything pretty much shuts down. Most kids, live to be about 10 or 11 or 12. She lived to be 17. But at the end, it's just not, it's not a good issue, but it's very rare and not many people knew about it. So I had a courage flag with her name and some other kids' names, and I would take them on all these adventures and raise awareness. My family my younger brother created something called Sing for Blair, because even though she was basically a 1-year-old or a toddler, in terms of mental capacity, she would light up when people sang to her. So Roger got Jimmy Buffett to sing for her, and Christina Perry and some Broadway stars, and raised a ton of money. And then my other niece, her sister, would do purple lemonade stands when I think she started when she was about 6 or 7 years old and did that for about 10 years. And what do you think of, a lemonade stand for someone like our special Blair would raise on a Saturday afternoon in the spring in Central Florida? Take a guess.
I have no idea.
$500?
I think we'd average about somewhere between $25,000 and $30,000.
Wow!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! Outstanding! That's so beautiful.
Yeah. So Blair, even though we had this incredibly difficult situation that you wouldn't wish on anyone, she impacted the lives of so many people, so I played a tiny part. And to your question of how do you do that and the difficulty, I always it was a strange. I took on the pain because I felt like it was relieving the pain of my brother and others. So I had a special reason to do it. But thank you for letting me share that story.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
Luckily, through a lot of
touches our heart.
I think, and it's a little bit more. People are aware of it now. There's not anything you can really do about it necessarily, but at least you can identify it early on. So again, thanks for letting me share that.
So back to the ultra marathon, like, is that more than 100 miles over like a day or two, or what is that?
Yeah. I mean, technically I think ultra is anything over a marathon. The most I've done is 50. But probably my hardest thing I've ever done is I ran. Again, this is for Blair. I carried the flag the whole time. I ran, it's called rim to rim to rim. So you start on one side of the Grand Canyon, you run down, over, up, you get to the other side, you run, and then you return. So you go back down, over, and across. It's usually 45, 50 miles. If you hike it, it takes about 4 or 5 days. If you run it, depending on how strong you are, it took me, I think, 15 hours. So that was, I don't know if I'll ever be able to do anything like that again, but
that's incredible. So are you still athletic at this level, Patrick? Is this just part of you?
I'm staying out on the beach, and I tell you, this soft sand is doing me in on my run this morning.
You mean the Ironman is not on your list here?
I'd like to do. Well, I've signed up for New York Marathon this year.
Oh, wow.
My goal, and if I say it out loud, I'm going to have to do it. But my goal is, I've done Ironman, the Panama City Ironman, and I know you're going to ask me, but we'll get into it again. It's the only second thing I want to talk about. But next year will be my 10-year anniversary of donating kidneys, so I'd love to do an Ironman.
Yeah, well, that was the
I've done
next
one
thing.
Ironman.
That was the next.
Yeah,
and how old, Patrick? How old are you to be able to?
I'm mid-50s. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, and you're still beating yourself up like this. Oh my gosh. Wow, you're tough. I have a new knee. It would not, I can't even, no. Okay. But
that's probably in my future.
Well, the surgeons at Andrews Institute, 2 of them, I had 2 surgeries, and I just told them I was trying to just be an Olympic TJ Maxx shopper was my goal with the new knee. So, and we're there.
Yeah, and now I know where to get my next coach.
Yeah. But the most important thing on your bio is that you are a kidney donor. And so, because General McQueen also donated a kidney to somebody in his church. So how did you become a kidney donor? Who has your kidney? And what's amazing is that you're still able to put your body through, these ultra marathons on one kidney. So talk about that.
Yeah, again, thank you. It's not about me, but it is an important issue I like to talk about. So in Winter Park, there was, I didn't really know her that well. She was a banker in town, and she was actually in my leadership class. So leadership Winter Park. And we had a pretty big class, and I knew her a little bit, but we're Facebook friends, and she just began to post how sick her husband was. I hadn't met him, didn't know him, but I went and got tested, and we were almost a perfect match. So he was a former Marine, and I just felt compelled and held that courage flag up going into the operating room. And it really is, it is not a big deal. It's funny. I talked to Mark about it, and I almost started tearing up. I'm like, you're such a hero. But when people talk to me, it's like, it's nothing. It's 2 days. I ran a 10K like 6 weeks later. You have a little incision, but it totally changed his life. He walked in my room 24 hours afterwards, and he looked like a brand new man.
Wow,
and
beautiful.
He's doing great. Dave is his name. And he's gotten into travel, and he just got back from Scotland. So now my other kidney, because I haven't been to Scotland, has been to more countries than me. I've been to like 55 countries. Yeah, so now my other kidney's been to 56. So.
Okay. Well, I know where your next vacation is.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
Got to keep up with the other kidney, right?
Well, you are the president and CEO of the Bay County Chamber, and you know, I'm just a tremendous fan. I'm part of the Military Affairs Committee, and people always, Amy always asks me to deliver a prayer, which I love to do. So I wanted to talk about this mission of the Chamber, because it is so bold, and everybody, you guys have the first Fridays, and so tell me, you know, how you're feeling taking over this organization. It's a strong organization, with, you know, you've got so many great people that I love. Tamara and I love Amy. There's just so many great people there. So
and you have some pretty big shoes to fill there. You know, Carol Roberts. I mean, she was a powerhouse. You know.
If I had $1 for every time someone said that, I probably would already be gone and tired.
You'd be on your next world adventure.
Yeah, exactly. Carol has done an amazing job, and I think she was with the Chamber 46 years, and maybe CEO for 25 or somewhere around that. So definitely big shoes to fill. Laid an incredible foundation. It's been very exciting. Humbling. The people throughout the community have been just extremely welcoming. It's a little bit different chamber than I've run in the sense that it's a little bit more regional. Winter Park was kind of Winter Park centric, and High Point was a little bit, you know, more, you know, community centric. This one, and the attraction really was the kind of the leader among leaders. You know, getting out there. The board is fantastic. And identifying big issues in the community, and being, you know, the convener, and being at the table and trying to fix or address some of these big topics in our community, and we can certainly get into that. The infrastructure surtax is kind of on the radar, but yeah, I mean, when we went to my first Friday, and that's not a stutter, it's the first Friday I went to. And a typical event like that in Winter Park, Florida, which was the number one chamber in Florida back when, would probably have maybe 70 or 80 or 100 people. And I walked in there, and there was over 300 people. So it's a testament to the hard work of the board and the staff and Carol's leadership. So it's really an exciting time to be part of this, and an exciting time to be in the Panhandle and Bay County.
You know, Patrick, one thing I want to ask you about chambers, because you've had exposure to other chambers. My experience with the Bay County Chamber is it's not just a business organization; it's a social organization also. I think, which is why you have so much support and such huge turnout. Is that the norm, or what you've seen in other chambers, or is it just are they more business focused type of operations?
That's a great question. It is. So when I was interviewed, I said, "Is this do you have a separate economic development agency?" And they said yes. I said, "Okay, good," because I don't want to I'm certainly here to support bringing business, but in High Point, the EDA was within City Hall. In Winter Park, the EDC was within City Hall. So we are, and of course here it's separate. So it gives us a flexibility to be a little bit more social in a degree. I mean, I like to say it's a chamber of community as much as a chamber of commerce. We do bring people together. There's a famous, I don't know how famous he is, but it's an urban sociologist. His name is going to slip my mind, but he talks about third place. So first place is your home, second place is work, and third place, we've kind of lost these third places. So back in the day would be the town hall or the corner, the bowling alley, or maybe the corner pub where people would come together. And especially with COVID, we've lost these third places. So now people leave their home, if they even leave their home, and go to work and go through the drive-thru and back home. The chamber is a third place. So we bring people together who probably wouldn't otherwise come together. You may not see your friends at the chamber at church or in your neighborhood. My third place is Rotary and the YMCA, because I know I'm going to be around people I just don't otherwise see. And that's what that was the appeal to your question, is that we are, that third place. We do the big stuff, which is really important, and it drives the success of our community and the well-being of our community. But we also are there to create, relationship and social capital and that sort of thing.
So, Patrick, I assume you're still fact-finding how you want to run the chamber. Are there any new visions or goals that you want to grow here, or you're just going to, steer the ship and see how it goes and then decide?
Well, I figure we'll just change the name first. No, I'm just kidding. I'm doing yeah, exactly. Wait, let's have that conversation on my 91st day. No, I'm doing a lot of listening, a lot of learning. I think, I know I was brought in as an outsider for a reason. When I moved to High Point, I literally didn't know a soul. When I moved here, I literally didn't know a soul. And I think there's some advantages to have some eyes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but no, nothing dramatic. Certainly, I mean, again, the foundation of this organization is like no other. I think there's some things we can tweak in terms of the way we communicate. I'd like to figure out how we can, update some stuff via, social media and websites and e-newsletters and that sort of thing. We do an amazing job with our events. The staff is fantastic. I can tell you that no other chamber that I'm aware of has the participation and the commitment of both the ambassadors. I mean, we have over 100 ambassadors. You're lucky if you have 15. And then the engagement of our board is actually unlike any other board I've ever seen. So, again, that's the culture of the organization that you just don't see anywhere else. So I've got a lot of great things to work with, and I'm going to learn as I kind of get my bearings here in Bay County.
Well, I was going to ask you, because when you came to my event, I was blessed that CFO Petronas said he would do my event. And I know Tamara was like, we've got to make sure Patrick meets CFO. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do that. So how has and then of course the CFO was like, oh, Patrick's here, so how has your reception been meeting all these community leaders and movers and shakers? Because our movers and shakers, Senator Scott shows up, and like Senator Trumbull shows up, Congressman Dunn. We've got power players that do participate in our chamber. So how's your reception been meeting everybody?
Humbling. It really has. It's been, I'm not one to get butterflies, but it's certainly fun to meet our elected officials and also just the great leadership. When I came here to interview, I just felt this sense of movement, positivity. I mean, it's, Bay County's still the size that you can literally get around the table, with the superintendent and our congressmen and our elected officials. And the hospital and the chamber guy or lady and get stuff done. So there's seems to be a real commitment where there isn't a lot of sharp elbows. People aren't trying to take credit for something. There's a collective kind of movement to take advantage of the wonderful things here. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I've been around my share of elected officials, and I really appreciate their commitment, especially in today's world. It's a tough time. Congressman Dunn has been just really extraordinary to me. He's just such a wonderful person. So it's been fun to see him out and about.
So Patrick, one of the interesting things about Bay County, we're kind of going through this transformation phase. There's been a lot of growth. There's a huge amount of building going on as far as apartments and that type of stuff. Not only on the beach, but you have Margaritaville being developed, and then up 231. There's developments going in all over the place, and so we have a lot of people coming in, and I think the Panama City Beach mayor's election was a good example of newcomers versus people that have been here a long time and want the status quo. And I'm just curious. You came from the Kissimmee area in Orlando, and you've seen the explosive growth in those kind of areas. Is that what's on the future for Bay County? I mean, is it going to be different, or it's just so many people coming in? It's going to transform the area for sure.
Yeah. To touch on your first point, I've gone to city commission, county commission meetings. The election was an example. There's a lot of things I've seen where you can say insert city. It seems outlandish at times, some of the things that are going on. But the pendulum swings one way and it comes back. And I think that experience, that I've had, maybe not always the most fortunate experience, but especially in communities where, it's sort of, we don't want growth. The chamber is going to pave our parks and that sort of thing, which obviously isn't the case. But to be able to know that and kind of get through it, and having people, the amount of letters to the editors and the comments when they start going down, there's nothing sweeter because you're succeeding. In terms of growth, the big advantage, without a doubt, is that there's I don't think it'll be as explosive. Obviously, you don't have a Walt Disney World coming in. You have the advantage of people, again, being around the table who can look forward and think in advance of kind of somewhat of a master plan, and get ahead of it. So there's not, I hope, urban sprawl like there is in other places in the state and elsewhere. So I think there's going to be a little bit more ability to throttle, back and throttle up. And the St. Joe Company obviously is doing a great job. So I'm very optimistic that it's certainly going to grow. There's huge opportunities. I went to the Florida Power Symposium when I first arrived, and the conversations around the opportunities here on the Panhandle are just dramatic. And you think about it, where else are you going to go if you're either moving here or thinking about relocating? There's not much left in this state. So we have the ability and the leadership in this community to kind of control it. So I'm completely optimistic that there's going to be done with a little bit more care and thoughtfulness. My mom was an elected official back in the day when it was nonpartisan, and she was the first mayor of Orange County. So she was a county commissioner, and then they changed the charter and made it a strong mayor. So she was elected, basically the CEO of Orange County, and served that for a couple terms and clerk of the court. And I'm real proud of her. She was sort of a pioneer in terms of women, and so she was in. I saw it through her eyes. She had that was sort of, I guess, the 90s, early 2000s. So explosive growth. in Orange County. And, there's some good things that happened, and there were some, really challenging things that happened. But if you notice, I'm living in Bay County, not Orange County. So that might tell you something.
So does the chamber profile the new people coming in? I mean, Orlando, pretty well, it's a tourist-driven economy, okay? So, you've got, obviously, Disney, Universal, all that kind of stuff down there. So that's the primary business of people that are coming in, service industry, that type of stuff. What's coming to Bay County? I mean, I see all this development going on, and I see all these apartment buildings and condos filling up. Who are those people? I mean, we don't have an industry here other than tourism.
Yeah. Which, Patrick, I've been saying for 10 years, we need a little mini Disney. Or I'm always pro-casino because I lived in Vegas. I know that freaks out Floridians, but I would love something like that because it brings good restaurants. It brings entertainment. So do we have a casino coming in?
I'm not touching that. And I'm looking at my Disney World right now as I look out my condo window at the beautiful beaches. Our big, I think certainly knowing Orlando is very transient, so people are coming and going. My intuition, again, what do I know? I've been here 3 months, is people are moving here because it's just a great place to live. There's the quality of life. People certainly, COVID, people were leaving the big cities. I've heard, and don't quote me, but Bay County is like one of the top 10 growth areas post-COVID that people are relocating to. I think number 8 in the state. And with the great work that the EDA, Becca, and Ben over there are doing to attract, companies, and the Southern Sky Aviation was an example that he did a ribbon cutting this week. Our airport with Parker McLennan over there. So there's definitely businesses coming and some advanced type of organizations and companies. So there are people moving here associated with companies that are fortunately high wage companies. But also I do think people are just coming here for the quality of life.
Oh, that's excellent. So what's your leadership style that you're bringing to the chamber?
I'm a pretty, a pretty laid back. I'm not I'm kind of a flat line egalitarian leader. So, there's not a real hierarchy. I'll speak to 300 or 400 people and then back up the pickup truck and load the coolers into it. That's just the Disney way. You pick up. I saw my, president or vice president of Epcot picking up trash, and darn it, I can't help myself but pick up trash in public. So when I'm walking through, it's been a curse. I think I'm still, sprinkling pixie dust on me. But yeah, it's really just doing anything that your staff would do. We had, nice. I'm sure there's a more hip, cool word nowadays, but we always talked about alignment at Disney, and alignment is really just the culture of, understanding your mission and your goals. At Disney, was creating the most magical experience for your guests, and how you do that is different, right? The housekeeper might make Mickey ears with the towels and leave it on the bed, and the kids get excited. My role, bringing international students to work at Epcot, was different. My boss was, big picture, driving big issues, but we all knew that the goal was to create a most magical experience for our guests. We just did it differently. So I feel very strongly that's what's happening in our chamber. Whether it's Tamara, Elizabeth, Amy, they're all here to serve and make this community better, and they're doing it in just different ways. So I'm really excited about that.
And do you have a motto that you roll with?
Gosh, I don't think I have a real motto. I think if you ask people that have worked with me over the years, they would probably say there's not a lot of difference between Patrick, the leader, and Patrick, the person. I'm just, it's hard for me to tell the difference. I am who I am, and I'm fortunate to been raised with some good values and had great mentors along the way. So, one other quick thing it just popped in my head that is kind of a something I learned at Disney and has been, again, part of who I am. And I was sitting in a room. They were planning the Millennium Celebration. So I'm in the room literally with the Imagineers and the head of Disney and my boss, and they're storyboarding what they're going to do for the biggest event, and I'm blending into the wall. Like, please don't acknowledge me. I'm in my 30s. Don't, I'm looking down, and my George Calagridis turned to me and said, "Well, Patrick, what do you think?" And I mean, thank goodness I don't remember what I said, because I'm sure it was idiotic, and I would probably still break out in sweats if I remembered it. But it was an incredibly valuable lesson in making sure that you engage other people and staff, and understand that we all have different voices. If you don't ask someone, like, I'll have an intern, and the intern maybe doesn't have the experience or the confidence to speak up. So to ask the question and get their input, there's some really creative and interesting and helpful information you can get. I had a person on my team in High Point who's just really creative but quiet. So unless you asked her, hey, what do you think? She wouldn't necessarily speak up. So yeah, getting back to kind of my leadership style, that's just something is that inclusiveness is really trying to engage everyone in the room, around the table, because we all have something to contribute. It's just, we do it differently.
That's
So,
nice.
it's interesting. I found that most successful organizations, that the leader comes from a servant leadership and understands humility. And I know, and it's interesting the way you talked about the Disney model. Waffle House is the exact same way. I've heard the president of Waffle House went into a bathroom in one of their Waffle Houses, and it was dirty, and he went and got stuff and started cleaning it. It was not beneath him to go in, and he would not. It was not, no job in that company was beneath him, because even though he was the president, and that's the kind of leadership that inspires people, actually.
Well, I was inspired by my team this week. We had someone break their foot, and she couldn't get around, and she also on the weekends helps tidy up the place. So we all chipped in. I cleaned up the men's room. Luckily, there's only one man in the building. But we all took care of our, we all took out the trash, and because we knew she wasn't going to be able to come in this weekend. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I've done these personality tests, and at Disney, they're trying to figure out, who is this guy Patrick, and he's a rising star. And I had this real in-depth. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't put me on the couch and or kick me out of Main Street. But in applying for the job in Winter Park, applying for the job in High Point, you get these psycho kind of analysis of your leadership style. And one thing that it sounds really weird even to say, but I have very, very low ego. So, and it sounds weird because someone who has no ego would probably not say you have a low ego, but it is I don't need to be the center of attention. I am there to get the job done, and so it's a good place to be in my mind, because if you're worried about being the top dog in the room, or you're worried about this or that, you're not focused on the job in front of you. So, it's a quality that I inherited. It's not anything I developed. So I'm fortunate.
Well, that's nice. Patrick, what about the legislative affairs? You were talking about there's some new movement there.
Yes, very, very important. Each year the Bay County Chamber gets together the community leaders, and they come up with kind of their business plan. And this year, the four key areas are affordable access to children, childcare, infrastructure surtax renewal, workforce development, and then the event center downtown in Panama City. The one that's top of the radar, middle of the radar, top of the list, however you want to say it, is the infrastructure surtax renewal. So in 2016, Bay County residents supported an infrastructure surtax. It's a half-penny surtax, and the money raised goes to support, redoing roads, bridges, stormwater issues. And it passed, I think, about by 10 points back in 2016, and it was due to sunset in 2 years, so it was a 10-year initiative. But the leaders have decided to put on the ballot this November, and so the chamber is driving that initiative of getting that passed. I've heard that before that surtax, the county, and I'm not even talking about the municipalities, that the county only had like $2 or $3 million to do these infrastructure projects. In 2024, just the county, I think, has raised, like, through this surtax, about $17 million. Overall, I believe, the municipalities on top of that was about $13 million. So $30 million has been raised and you've seen the projects. I mean, it's remarkable, the projects that are happening in everybody's neighborhood. The nice thing about this surtax, is a half-penny surtax, is almost 50% of it is paid by visitors to our community. So they're using our roads, and they're helping keep those roads up with this surtax. So the chamber has a political action committee. I have some experience in creating and driving PACs, and we're going to drive this initiative. We just did polling of our members on Thursday. We're still getting results, but so far, we've got hundreds of results already, and we're at 88%. I checked this morning in favor of it.
Okay.
They're informed people, and then we have a public poll going on right now of Bay County residents with a firm in Tallahassee. We'll have those results, coming up in the next week or two to help us understand, are people aware of the issue? What parts of the infrastructure surtax are important to them? So we're going to be out there raising money and get this thing passed again because, I mentioned $30 million. The other huge advantage is our community's been able to leverage those dollars. As you both know, if you go to Tallahassee or to the feds and you ask for, support financially, and you hold out your hand, it's not always able to get those funds. But when you go with them and you say, we've got a $5 million project and here's $1 million we're going to contribute, you're more likely to get that funding. So we've been able to leverage that $30 million revenue stream into about $100 million of projects. So,
excellent.
Again, the county itself, and I just know it because I'm a little bit more focused on the county, but we've already completed over 60 projects worth about $100 million. So it's really important for our community. To your earlier question about growth, as more people come, we need to have the infrastructure to take care of them. And it's also a public safety issue. That money will help that as well. So super, super important.
So I wanted to ask you because this Friday, we've got the air show is going to be over the beach. I've been here 10 years. We've never had an air show with airplanes flying over the beach. And the MAC is actually, the Military Affairs Committee is hosting a reception for all of the folks flying in. And I will be there. I'm so excited. But you just got to go on a civic leader tour, and the love of the chamber and the military with the chamber. There's this excellent relationship between the two. So I wanted you to talk about your experience, because what a cool trip you got to do.
I'm literally getting chills. And not only about the trip, but about this relationship. The Military Affairs Committee, I've never had the experience. I mean, we don't have a base in Central Florida. And I'm like I'm an 8th grade schoolboy. When I hear those jets, I'm still going outside, videoing and sending it to my brothers.
Me too. And I've been, on a flight line for 55 years. It's so fun.
It is just amazing. And through the efforts of Mac and great leaders like Tom Neubauer and Glenn
he's
McDonald,
fabulous. Yes. Love them.
We probably owe them the fact that we're, having Tyndall be the next sort of the base of the future with that $6 billion
statement.
makeover. Yeah. And of course, our military installations here, I think, contribute well over 35, maybe 40% of our economy. So, it's one of the things that is extraordinary about this community is the appreciation of our military. And it'll be my first air show ever. You'll get to meet the Thunderbirds on Friday night.
I can't wait, because they're all gorgeous. I used to do Thunderbird work, so I'm getting my picture with all of them, Patrick.
Well, if they're gorgeous, I'm going to get my picture with them too.
You're waiting behind me. I'm first.
Amy on our team, who
I love Amy.
Our government affairs,
yes,
and our military affairs. She's a superstar. She and I are on this small committee who, are supporting putting on this air show. And I'll get to your question about my trip, but we're sitting in the room every Tuesday, and there's about 10 of us, and 2 of them are fighter pilots. One of them was a Thunderbird, and I can barely control myself. I know I'm like that 30-year-old in the corner, sounding like an idiot, because I'm like, tell me about what it's like. It's like, Patrick, we're trying to, put on a 30,000 person air show. Can you quit asking the guy what it's like to fly a fighter pilot? But yeah, I was fortunate enough to go on a civic leaders trip just about a few weeks ago, and it was up to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. We flew. This is unbelievable. We flew on a KC-135, so that's a refueling.
The gas
plane.
kills. Mm-hmm.
And we got to experience refueling F-35s. So we got to watch F-35s fly on each, in pairs on our wings, and then they get behind us, and we refueled the F-35s. It was, I've done some pretty amazing things, when you throw in Disney and in High Point, we were able to do a $50 million revitalization project that we were able to drive. And I tell you, I sent pictures to all my old friends at all these former jobs. I'm like, I get it. Pixie dust, pretty good. I just watched an F-35 get refueled. So
gas station in the air.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like you're loving the job.
Well, that's what I like to say about the F-22 demos. It's like, you watch that and it's like, oh, that's amazing. I say, yeah, that's what $400 million will do for you.
Exactly.
Well, what are we missing, Patrick? I'm just so excited that you're at the helm, and I can tell you're going to be a cheerleader for Bay County, because I know our slogan is "Together we're building a better Bay County," but I want to get past the building part, because we're leading the way. So, what are we missing today?
Yeah. Just, I think you can tell I'm excited. I'm excited about the people I've been able to meet. I'm thrilled with some of our younger leaders that are in the community who are up and coming and are going to be superstars. And our partnerships with BCCA, the Contractors Association, with CPAR, the realtors, they're both playing a really big part in the surtax renewal. So, I think we've touched on a lot. I'm fortunate and unfortunate. My family is still up in High Point, my wife and daughter. It's allowed me to really be focused.
Okay.
They haven't moved down yet. So it's allowed me to be really focused, and so we'll get them down here soon, get relocated and get settled. But I'm going to work really hard for you all, and both of you have been fantastic to meet and supportive and fun. So we're going to get a lot accomplished and have some fun along the way.
Well, it's been a pleasure hosting you, Patrick, and we want you to be a regular. So when there's things that are happening, you need to let us know. And we've been talking today with Patrick Chapin, and he is the new president and CEO of the Bay County Chamber. And I know your future is just so bright, Patrick. And it's been such a pleasure having you on Veronica Live this morning.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a ton of fun, and thanks for letting me share what's going on, not only in my life, but in the community.
And we will see you at the air show. So we will be right back on Veronica Live.